We're very honoured to have with us two exceptional people who we're lucky to have got. Both had competing offers today, so we're very grateful. Thank you, Nina and Paul, for being here. So Nina is the lead on very many things in the O2 organisation, which for those of you who don't know is part of a global organisation called Telefonica. But Nina also comes from a background in many other service industries. So we're honoured to have you here to talk about how to be meaningfully connected and how the service industries can do so much to do that. Paul has been many years at one of the, probably, we were talking earlier, probably one of the original ways that people pooled their resources to benefit many others other than just the individuals. So Paul is from the Nationwide Building Society and leads the marketing and brand effort in that organisation today. So welcome and thank you. I'm just going to pick up my notes. There we go. So we're going to make this kind of a short, sharp conversation, and I do hope that we'll pick up on with both Nina and Paul a bit later in the day. Since we're sort of running a little bit over, we'll try and carve a bit of time out here. So Nina, just quickly, telecommunications, one of the industries that's never actually had to sort of say we've got stuck in a model, that's constantly changed its model ever since it was pretty much invented. How have you seen that change in recent years, other than the obvious technological shifts? How have you seen the role of telecommunications change in people's ability to foster better or more meaningful or more robust lives?
So clearly, digital has changed the way we live our lives. I won't give you any examples, we all know that. And mobile is at the heart of that. So often, mobile now replaces the word digital. Just a couple stats, which always surprised me. I think there's 49 million smartphones in the UK today. There's, on average, each household has 19 devices. And we now spend more time on tech than we do sleeping, so surprise. But those are sort of the scary figures. But actually, I think what technology, what mobile has done is enables us to be much more connected with things, people, passions, stories that really interest us. I think in terms of a telecoms company, what we've done or what we're doing to respond to that sort of change is, and it's interesting, when I say mobile, I mean mobile in the broadest sense. In other words, I'm not just talking about a mobile phone, because actually people are using mobiles, tech tablets, wearables, hearables. These are all now mobile devices. And so something we have to do is make sure that we're offering all of that. Customers are increasingly looking for more flexibility in how they're using mobile. They're looking for more support to make sure that they're embedding technology into their daily lives. So I think it is changing, but I think it's a very positive change if we help customers get the most out of it.
And are you finding that people are using these tools to moderate their lives, moderate their consumption, or is it more around getting things faster, more conveniently? What do you find is the balance?
I'm not sure if there's balance necessarily. They're using it for everything. We use them, and again, I mean, I could just as easily ask all of you that question because it is so much a part of our daily lives. I think we're using it to connect, to do business, to organize our social lives, to organize family life. We were speaking to some customers. I've just come from our company conference, by the way, today. We're doing it all week, and we get in customers to talk to us real time. And we had a really interesting discussion, and we said, what do you love about technology? And people were saying, well, I love how much I'm able to use it. But I worry about the next generation. Is technology impacting their ability to be social animals? Is it impacting their social interaction? And we had a couple of people say that, a couple of women talking about their children. And then we had another woman come in and say, well, actually, I love technology because it's helping me spend more time with my daughter. And in fact, it's a really positive thing for the next generation, i.e. this woman's daughter, because it means I can work flexibly and I can get home and spend time with her. So you know, with every yin, there's a yang, and I think there's a huge amount of great potential, possibility, and opportunity with technology.
Thank you. Paul, financial services, we all know the last 4 or 5 years have been horrendous for the industry on a global level. Major structural changes having to happen, both from a regulatory point of view, but also in terms of people's attitude to financial services. How has Nationwide fared so well? What do you think there is in the DNA that might have helped that along?
Is this on? It is on. I think it's probably worth just mentioning at the start, it's very brave of anyone from Havas to invite the least trusted sector in the UK to a meaningful brands conference. So thank you. I'm either set up or I'm going to show you there's some hope. It's probably worth me just talking just very briefly about the Nationwide model as opposed to a banking sector. So for those that aren't aware, Nationwide is a building society, which fundamentally means it's built differently from the banks in that we don't have shareholders and we're owned by our members. As a result of that, we can behave in a very different way. And to Catherine's point before, which was a very good one, about thinking long-term, not short-term, by not having to meet the shareholder demands and city demands for quarterly reporting, it means that we can genuinely take decisions which are in the long-term interests of our members. So it's probably useful to know that in the context of this conversation, because it does mean that as an organisation that's now 169 years old, we fundamentally, whilst the market has changed, the beliefs at Nationwide fundamentally haven't. And what's that allowed to do to get through the last 6 or 7 years where, you know, Nationwide hasn't required a penny of taxpayers' money, it hasn't required any bailouts from many other organisations, it hasn't had any regulatory fines. It's fundamentally because we make the decisions which we believe are right in the interests of our membership, not in the interests of making as much money as we can from them. So we have a very, it's not really a marketeer's dream. Our purpose says something like, or exactly like, you know, we're here to safeguard your financial interests, help you to save, help you to own your own home, and help you make the most of your money. It's very understated, but that's exactly what we're here to do. And fundamentally, we have a belief which says that we're here to do the right thing for people as opposed to maximise profit from them. So it allows us to make the decisions which we think are in their interests, not necessarily in the interests of maximising return. And we can do that because we're a mutual and not a shareholder-owned business, which allows us hopefully to make the right decisions most of the time. It doesn't mean we're a charity. We have to make money. And we have to make sure that we can safeguard our members' interests by having big capital reserves. So, you know, and what we've managed to show this year, we've managed to, by doing the right thing as we see it, we've managed to report our record profits and hit over £1 billion, which sounds really ugly to a lot of people, but the regulator insists that we have profits of that size to safeguard our membership of 15 million people should we face a downturn in the future. So I think in answer to your question is a very long way around, but I think it's just sticking to our principles has allowed us to get through the last 6 or 7 years and come out as the most trusted in a very poorly trusted sector.
That's very interesting, because what we hear from both of you is actually when you put people and their needs, whether they're the simplest thing like knowing what time the bus is coming, can I have that on my mobile in the palm of my hand, or can I safeguard my biggest, longest term investment that also is the largest thing my children will inherit, potentially. It's about models that are successful, or those that are putting people right in the centre. I think that's really interesting. Somebody earlier, I think it was Peter, raised the prospect of products wanting to be more like services, and those models where Philips no longer sells poles and bulbs, it sells lumens of light, and so on, is very interesting. Which brings me back to sort of the Internet of Things, which people get terribly excited about. And one of the things that's very, very interesting in telecommunications is its role in fostering this kind of Internet of Things and Internet of moving things and all these connected people and connected devices, and some of the opportunities to create more sustainable, connected cities and communities as a context. O2 is a large corporation, I'm sure, thinking about these things further into the future. Nina, how do you sort of ground that in today's reality?
So I think the Internet of Things it's a big buzzword right now. It is coming. Again, we were talking to my customers this morning, and one of the women spoke about washing machine. She's very excited. She has a washing machine that can communicate with her and that she can, helps her manage it. Obviously, thermostats. We're seeing a lot more about smart thermostats. So it is really important. It is just another example of how the mobile phone or whatever the mobile device may be, because as I said, there's many different versions, are the remote control to our lives. We're doing a lot of work in terms of, we announced earlier this year through Telefonica that we've been working with AT&T, who have smart home in the US. We're with them to develop similar capabilities. And it's about ensuring that we're making our customers' lives easier. That sounds obvious. We talk about purpose, you talk about purpose. Our purpose is to ensure that we're opening up the possibilities of technology to everyone. And those possibilities just increase and proliferate. And we need to be ahead of that trend. We then also need to be doing it, and something that's really important to me, and you mentioned it, doing it with the human touch. So one of our core assets, I guess if I could call it that way, is our O2 Gurus. And these are people in our shops or online, by the way, or through a web chat, completely free of charge. They have no sales commission, so they're just there to help people make the most out of technology. And just as a short aside, but it just brought it home to me so powerfully how much people want technology to be part of their life. A woman came into one of our shops the other day with a memory card. And she said she wanted to know how much storage she had on it. And it was, instead of asking how many gigabytes does this hold or how many megabytes does this hold, her question to the guru was, how many memories does this hold? That was so powerful. Wasn't that beautiful? How many memories does this hold? So it all comes back to each individual's personal life and how technology is really helping them get the most out of it. So sorry, that's how we're looking at it.
Fantastic. So the people, planet, profit equation gets down to the individual and how their life is somehow better.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I sort of, again, when I talk to my team, and we often talk about how do you bring technology to life. For me, that's not the question. The question is, how do you bring life to technology? And I really think for O2 and around our purpose and around who we are and certainly my own values, that's what we're there to do, is bring life to technology, not the other way around.
So that seems to be a recurrent theme. Humans at the heart, which we heard from Karen and Albert and you. And Paul, yours is a business that's not really, as you pointed out, about money. It's about people and their long-term savings and their long-term well-being of the society they live in. Do you think, from your experience, that mutuality's kind of got a resurgence? Is there something about, that we talk about the collaborative economy and the sharing economy, or Robin Chase calls it the peer economy, many words for a similar thing. Do you think there's this resurgence of the collective?
I'm pretty sure there is. I think that, as you alluded to at the very start, in 1846, when 7 people above a pub in Northampton decided to form what now is the Nationwide, which was effectively the reason for doing so was trying to pool together the resources of a group of people to help their savings to help other people build homes in which to live. It was probably one of the early stages of crowdfunding that we probably saw today, and we see more of it. And actually, the whole mutual model, and in fact, a lot of the banking sector is built on that. And much as people don't want to think when they save their £50,000 in Nationwide that we're going to go and give it to Sharon to go and buy a house. A lot of people think it's in a shoebox in a safe. Well, it isn't. We just pool everyone's money together to help people go and borrow money to help improve their lives. So the principle is absolutely still there, and it's no secret to any of us in this room that the collaborative economy and the sharing economy, whatever you might call it, the principle of sharing has never been probably so rife as it is today. And our challenge is, at Nationwide, is how can we sort of unlock that feeling? And we've got 15 million customers, so we are pretty much one of the biggest. And how we can make them feel like they're part of something together, rather than 15 million people having individual relationships with a financial services organisation. And there's great scope if we can try and unlock some of that. I challenge the question, people are happy to share a car, but when it comes to sharing your money, it's a different conversation. So there's lots of questions to be asked in that space. But fundamentally, yes. I mean, in theory, it could absolutely unlock quite a new concept for us.
Fantastic. Well, I think you've both been really amazing and brought things right back to sort of very key principles that anybody can apply to their own thinking. Just to sort of cap it off, Nina, is if there was one thing that you would say you've learnt, and I know you've worked in a number of sectors, you've come from Paul's sector at various points in time and so on, but if there were one thing that you've learnt in telco and technology that really added to your understanding of purpose and promise and meaningfulness, could you sum it up in one thing or two or three things? Or
it sounds so trite, I know, and I'm sorry. I wish I could make it sound more complex or sophisticated. But it's about putting the customer at the center. And it does sound trite, but it is the only way. If we're really clear that we start with the customer and about solving their problems or meeting their needs, or even better, being ahead of their needs, if we can, then actually the rest of it works. And it works not just for the customers, not just for our shareholders, but actually for our colleagues as well, our employees, because they want to work for a company that they can see is doing great things for their customers and also therefore for the broader good. So for me, it has come back to that. As I said, I wish I could dress it up a bit more, make it sound more sophisticated, but I can't.
Perfect. Wonderful. And Paul, from you, just one last thing, and it's kind of on the back wall there, that 3 times or nationwide embraces or achieves 3 times the trust level of its next nearest competitor, and that's because you have a fundamentally ethical model from its origins. What would you say would be the one challenge or the one thing you would love for your company, your brand, to do more of differently in the face of sort of this re-emergence of collaborative thinking?
You know what, I think this is going to sound even worse than yours, I think, but
Thank you.
you know what I mean. You know what I mean. The challenge for Nationwide is just to tell more people some of the things it does. So that's the business challenge. We do too many quite impressive things that we don't tell anybody about, which is part of the challenge we have. And it's to make more people aware of it. So, you know, we do have a very rich citizenship agenda, and it's we're doing some things which, so we've had a partnership with Macmillan now for 22 years, raising nearly £7 million with them. And we're not just in it because we think helping people with cancer is the right thing to do, but when you find out that for every one call that Macmillan receive about an illness, they get 25 calls about financial worries, and 1 in 17 people lose their house as a result of cancer. There's a real role for Nationwide to try and do something about that. So only in the last 3 months we've set up a bespoke team of people who deal specifically with cancer sufferers, helping them to try and manage their way through their financial problems, be it deferring mortgage payments or reducing interest or all that sort of stuff. It makes us no money, and we're not in it to make the money, but we think it's the right thing to do to help people through times like that. And our vulnerable customer agenda is something we're absolutely increasing all the time, and we will continue to do that. And you know, ultimately, I think we've got to give something big back to the society that we live in, and we've got plans afoot to do that, where we can genuinely say we've made a difference to the communities in which we live.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. And the one thing that I've certainly learned or had re-emphasised today from both of you, but also from Karen, from Albert, from Catherine, from Simon, from Oliver, from everybody, is if you see something and it shouldn't be that way, you can use business as a force for good to change that thing. It's possible, it's doable, and there are many examples in the room. So thank you. It was very exciting to have you both. I'm going to do a quick commercial break. We're going to have some coffee and probably just be, you know, really quick, grab a coffee, a tea, or water, and we'll try and sort of just recoup some time so we've got enough time for drinks at the end. But when we return, we shall be talking to some of the next generation of influencers and innovators, but we'll also be hearing from true millennial business people who actually have invented a giving brand from the get-go. So we look forward to that, as well as the joy of an extraordinary performance, no doubt, from George the Poet. So we'll grab a coffee, tea, and come on back.